Give it up for Danielle DiMartino.
Danielle DiMartino.
Danielle DiMartino booth.
Well, housing data for January out today kind of sent some mixed signals, as you can see here. Housing starts declined by a more than expected 9.8% month over month. Building permits actually ticked up slightly versus expectations for a decline. Here's the question. Could the chill in the housing space be thawing out? A lot to parse through. I want to bring in for more on that in the broader economic picture, QI Research CEO and Chief Strategist Danielle DiMartino Booth. Reaction to all this. Let's start with that data this morning, because the housing starts, I thought, was the bigger concern out of the two numbers that we got this morning.
Well, the housing starts definitely feed right into GDP. We saw kind of a temporary reprieve, a little bit of a bump in recent GDP reports, and it looks like that's going to be trailing off. We'll see. I think demand, though, might be the bigger issue here. We saw Mortgage Bankers Association weekly applications data this morning that showed that applications to purchase a new home have given back nearly all of their gains for 2025, back to where they were in early January.
Well, if you look at this chart here, I mean, there were some months where you had some really big jumps, but then you had equal falls.
Right.
So 2024 as a whole was very volatile. Do you think that's going to happen this year, or do you think we're going to have a little more stability with
Well, it's been really bumpy. The Wall Street Journal had a good story out last week that showed a tremendous number of American home sellers had pulled their homes for sale from the market. So if you're listening if you got your ear to the ground, a lot of people in the housing community see a major bump up coming in inventory for sale once we hit the spring selling season.
But is that existing, or that's going to be existing, or
that's going to be existing? In addition to what we know is happening in the Sun Belt, which is still too many homes where we don't necessarily need them, in addition to too many apartments.
Mm-hmm. Well, at least that'll help with some of the housing crisis as far as places to put people. Yeah,
we want to see affordability improve. Don't get me wrong. This is not bad news for buyers. This is increasingly becoming a buyer's market. That's good.
Well, that's good. Yeah, let's get those interest rates down just a little bit. Yeah. So let's talk about HUD, because this is interesting on the federal level here right now. They're denying reports that FHA is going to lay off about 40% of the staff. That's a pretty large cut to that agency. What would that mean for the housing market if we did see that type of workforce cut?
Well, I don't think any of us know. We've seen precedent set where we have large layoffs and don't seem to have any discontinuity in the services that are offered. We don't know. We won't know. But I will welcome any kind of an audit of the FHA, the same way I would welcome an audit of the Federal Reserve. And that's because, in recent years, I think a lot of people have tapped into an organization that was really designed just to help first-time home buyers, people who are really struggling, whereas it's become a go-to, and it's even heard to be kind of one of the areas where we're seeing mortgage fraud.
Well, what do you make of this conversation that we're going to see, this privatization of Fannie and Freddie? Is that... I think that's still kind of out there, but I don't know how much. It
is. I'm not... I wouldn't necessarily... it's going to take years. You're going to have to work through this. It's going to take years. And B, because Fannie and Freddie have tended to have always had the implicit backing of the U.S. government, I think we're in dangerous territory to suggest a complete privatization that really would revamp the way mortgages are approached in the United States.
Yeah. Okay, that's good to know. It was good to see some movement, at least nothing else, in the mortgage market. Real quick, retail sales. This has been interesting because we've seen that data actually really pressured recently. And you've got inflation higher, retail sales under pressure. The December number was not really great.
No.
Household debt hit a new all-time high in Q4.
Yep.
That's the New York Fed. There's a lot of concern about the consumer right now. A lot.
And there should be. In fact, if you dug into that New York Fed report, we're seeing that American families are deleveraging. This is the first time that we've seen them cutting back on their debt. The last two precedents are 2001 and 2008. Those are not good precedent. So we really are tracking this closely. And for everybody who said that the retail sales report was some kind of a reflection of the weather, why on earth do we see a 1.9% decline in online sales? You don't have to leave the house, if it's cold, in order to shop online. We learned that during the pandemic, and yet that was one of the weakest areas that we saw.
Hey, really quick, we've also seen in this all the data is the personal personal savings rate has been declining every month.
Yeah.
That, for me, along with what the banks are telling us about credit card debt, and I forget which bank it was this morning, saying that some of those unforgivable loans, those loans that they're never going to get the money back, basically, they're saying that they're writing off more of those types of loans.
And I think we are going to see more charge-offs going forward from the lenders. We've seen a lot of modifications of even credit card debt that are going to end up rolling back into delinquencies and further charge-offs. So I think the consumer is going to be faced with tighter lending standards into 2025. That's not good because our economy lives and dies based on debt creation.
Yeah. Danielle, it's great to see you.
Great to be here in studio.
Yeah, in studio. It's always great to have you here in New York. Pleasure.